Well, good Monday morning to you. This is our Monday morning live edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. I'm your host, Jim Tabor, along with Drs. Jim and Janine Fox of Doctor's Nutrition, located on Cal Lorraine Road in Gulfport, just south of Pass Road. We do this every Monday morning on WLOX CBS, and it is live. And what we do is we invite you to call in and ask questions regarding the topic, which most of the time of the month we have a specific topic that we talk about regarding health, and you're invited to call in and ask questions. Well, every first Monday of the month we do what's called Open Line Monday. So you can call and ask anything regarding your health, because that's what this show's all about, trying to help you lead a healthier lifestyle. And our phone lines are 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. When you call in, you can pass your question on to our producer, Rebecca, and she'll be glad to pass that along to us. As I said, this is first Monday of the month. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And everything. So I hope everybody had a great New Year, bringing in the New Year. This is the second day.
Yeah.
The second.
Hopefully it's going pretty good so far.
Yeah,
right?
hey, I had a great New Year. So, Yep. So,
congratulations, he's getting married.
Yes, I got engaged to a wonderful young lady. So that was New Year's Eve. So it was amongst a bunch of friends. So
Good.
It was really good.
That's good.
So anyway, this is, like I said, it's Open Line Monday.
Yeah, it is. Starting out first of the year, thought we'd maybe got some good questions coming up. We had a lot of response on our YouTube on our show that we did on nattokinase. Mm-hmm. Kind of interesting.
And we did that like about a month ago?
About a month ago.
Yeah, we did that here.
And we're still getting. Yeah, I'm still answering replies to it. Because a lot of people had a lot of questions about it. So it was a interesting show.
Well, for those that are just tuning in, talk about that for a little bit. What is nattokinase? What is it good for?
Well, nattokinase, it's what we call a proteolytic enzyme, which means it breaks down protein or eats proteins. And the Japanese were the first ones to come up with it, back in '87, I think is when they isolated it. And from a food they called natto. Natto is a fermented soy that they eat a lot. And anyhow, it is probably one of the most, according to some of the research that's coming out now, probably one of the most intriguing, shall we say, natural compounds for cardiovascular health, simply because it can digest those proteins. And one of the proteins that they're talking about, and they're even talking about reversing cardiovascular disease, reversing plaque and so on, but which is a buildup of proteins and plaque, and which has proteins in it. And so this stuff can actually reverse that. It can actually digest it, and we can reverse
break it down.
And we've actually seen quite a bit.
We've seen a lot of times when people have done carotid ultrasounds before, and then you do it 6 months to a year later, and then you look and see what it does. And it definitely, if they are regular at it, it does take being very regular.
It does.
It definitely starts decreasing the plaque, which the people always have been told that it can't do it, but it can. With K2, which we use also with it, it definitely can.
Yeah.
And the one that we have, we call it Natto Advantage. It actually has your nattokinase, but it also has serrapeptidase, which is another proteolytic enzyme.
Right.
And it's also used for inflammation. And then it has rutin, and a pretty high amount of rutin that actually helps with the integrity of the vessels.
Right.
So it strengthens the vessels and the cardiovascular system. Yeah. So together, it works really, really good.
I take 2 every morning when I first get up.
Yep.
And night before I go to bed, I take 1.
Yeah.
So
you can take more than that, because I have the questions that we get constantly, and some of the research that was just published, I think it was back in April of this past year, showed that they actually coupled it with some of the Japanese physicians are using it quite a lot, rather than some of the other anticoagulants and so on. And they're using it in conjunction with like aspirin. So they're showing it to be something you can use with aspirin, without aspirin, with a lot of other compounds.
One of the good things about natto is they've even compared it to some of the drugs they use to dissolve clots. But the drugs that they use to dissolve clots have such high risk for bleeding, and they say natto does not. So it is safer and is very effective. And it's even been shown to help with blood pressure some, because it definitely makes a difference with almost all cardiovascular. Mm-hmm. It really does help cardiovascular problems in general.
Yeah.
All right.
It really does.
Yeah.
We have a question this morning, real quick. Any progress of treating tinnitus?
Tinnitus or
Tinnitus,
yep.
tinnitus, ringing in the ears.
Really, that depends on the person. It is not the easiest thing. There's not just one thing that you say, okay, you have this, you take this, it goes away.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
That's the problem.
They find some of the bioflavonoids actually can help, but it doesn't help in everybody because we've used it in people and then it doesn't help in everybody. So some of the citrus bioflavonoids is one of the things that's been used. We'll use something, vinpocetine, it helps in some people. Yeah. Sometimes if the ringing in the ears is blood pressure related, that's the easier kind to help because then you just do something to bring down the blood pressure and you can actually help it. So it really depends on the person, what's causing it, because there's a lot of different causes. That's just a symptom and there's a lot of different causes, so you have to get, like we always say, get to the root of the cause.
And that's the problem with it. There's so many different things can cause it. It's like, gosh, you got to figure out what it is.
Got to figure out what it is. Yeah.
All right. Another question. I'm always feeling lethargic. I get a good night's rest, but I just don't seem to have any energy. What am I lacking?
That could be a lot of things. Like we've said in the past, fatigue is one of our most common symptoms that people come in with.
Yeah.
I mean, and it can be a symptom of so many different things. It can be a vitamin D deficiency. It can be a B12 deficiency. It can be an iron deficiency. It can be a magnesium deficiency. It can be a thyroid problem. It can be an adrenal problem. It can be, you know, all your anemias. And so like I said, so the thing is on that one, got to do lab work.
Yeah.
You got to do lab work to find out what is the cause.
Yeah, it's sort of like, you know, and for some, if you're new to the show and the way we kind of do it, and what I explain to people about the reason we stress doing the lab work so much, really, it's sort of like you take your car to the dealership and something's wrong with it. And they're going to stand there and nod, yeah, okay, it's doing this. The first thing they're going to do is plug it into that computer. And they're going to know, oh, okay, it's a such and such. That's how they know what's wrong with it. That's how you know what's wrong with your body, is simply plugging it in to get the lab work
They
done.
don't just say, let's load it up with oil and see if that makes a difference. You know what I mean? That's what people do. That's what, if you think about it, when you say, oh, I'm going to go take this and this and this and this, and I don't even know what I need, that's kind of the same thing. Is you're just kind of load your car up with oil and see if it fixed other problems.
And we get a lot of times people talk about, this stuff is so expensive. It's expensive if you're taking the wrong thing, and if you're taking something, like she said, you're just taking stuff. Then it is expensive because you're probably taking the wrong stuff.
I've heard people say, oh, I took B12 and it didn't give me any energy. I said, it's not going to give you energy unless it's deficient. It's really not going to make that big of a difference unless that is what's causing the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why you have to check to see what is causing the problem. And even our panel that we do, our expanded panel, which is our most common panel we do, checks all that. And then we have the cardiac panel that goes a little farther, and in people over 50, that's what I recommend, doing a little bit more because cardiovascular problems can make fatigue as well.
Oh, it definitely can.
Yep.
All right. 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. Our phone lines are open to you. It is Open Line Monday, so any questions you have regarding your health, please pick up the phone and give us a call. We're going to take a break. Come right back. It's 8 minutes after 9 o'clock. And welcome back. It's our Monday morning live edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. Our phone lines are 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. We had a caller call in with regarding a supplement they were taking and how it affects their HDL, and we didn't quite catch that the supplement. So if you'll call back real quick, please, and pass that along to us.
Right.
Yep.
We'll be happy to try to answer your questions on that.
Certainly.
Another question I got emailed in. I'm having a problem losing weight. I'm doing the right things, eating good, exercising, but the weight just doesn't seem to be coming off.
When they tell me that and they say they're eating good, I always say, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay? Because it's kind of funny because most people don't have a freaking clue what eating good means. Okay? They really don't. They think, well, I'm eating clean.
I had somebody tell me one time, it was a 20-something-year-old, and they said, but I have a perfect diet. And I said, well, to me, your lab work don't look like a perfect diet. So that's not what I'm seeing on your lab work. So what do you call a perfect diet? And he's like, well, I eat, basically, I'm not going to mention names, but fast food for breakfast.
A biscuit.
Yeah, a biscuit, like sausage biscuit for breakfast. I eat, it was tacos for lunch, and then I eat pizza at dinner. And I was like, what about that do you think is a perfect diet? And he said, I don't ever eat between meals. I was like, that does not mean you have a perfect diet. Fast food 3 times a day is not.
Well, what?
And he was eating out fast food 3 times a day, and he said he had a perfect diet. Because he didn't feel like he was overeating. And I'm like, okay.
He didn't eat between meals, though.
Right.
No, so
one of the things that I always, when somebody tells me that, seriously, in all seriousness, I'll say, okay, let's just start eliminating some things. And one of the first things I want you to give up is bread. Any kind of bread. I don't care what kind of bread it is. Just stop bread.
and packaged processed foods.
Well, yeah, but even just something as simple as stopping bread. Do that for 2 weeks, and then come back and tell me if you haven't lost weight.
Yeah.
Well, I don't eat that much bread. Well, then we go through the diet, and you know, well, yeah, well, I had a sandwich for lunch. What do you think a sandwich has got in it?
I had a biscuit for breakfast.
Right. So, yeah, when we think we're eating good, and we might be compared to what we did eat, there's no doubt about that. I mean, if it's comparatively. But at the same time, we have to look at it and say, okay, because most people think that fats make you fat, and that's the absolute wrong thinking. Carbs make you fat.
Right, because it spikes your insulin. Your insulin has to go up because the insulin goes up to keep you from being diabetic. The body's supposed to do that when you eat a lot of carbs and sugar. But insulin has another job, not just to lower in sugar. Its other job is to store fat. So if you have a lot of carbs, even if you're not diabetic, even if you're not pre-diabetic, if you have too many carbs, you increase your insulin levels and then you store more fat. It's just the way it works. So that's the first thing I would do. And if you have any other questions, you can come on and talk to us.
Well, one of the things that y'all suggest, and I think it's always a great idea, is for a week,
do a food diary.
Write down everything you put in your mouth. I don't care what it is: water, mints, sandwiches, biscuits, whatever.
One thing I catch a lot in people when they do that, it's the stupid stuff they put in their coffee in the mornings. They're putting these already made creamers that aren't even really cream.
You know, that's something I quit doing recently.
They have all kind of, and if you look at the ingredients, these ingredients, you don't even know what most of them are. For some reason, that keeps people from losing weight. All that stuff that is pre-made to put in coffee, I said, go to heavy cream. I mean, if you're going to put something, use the real stuff.
Interesting about that coffee creamer, kind of browsing through YouTube here not too long ago, and I saw that this guy had a coffee creamer, and he was starting fires with it. This stuff burns.
You didn't tell me that.
I was like, huh? I had to really watch it. I said I had to watch that again because it's a real short little thing, only about a minute or two long. But I mean, he took this coffee mate stuff or coffee creamer stuff he had, and he pushed it on here and took a match to it. Boof! I thought, I
know it does make weight gain because when I see that's the one thing people are doing wrong when they stop it, it does make a difference. So don't do that. If you're going to put something in your coffee, use real ingredients. If you can't pronounce it, you don't know what it is, don't eat it.
Don't do it.
Well, that's now I put my stevia. And then some whole milk.
Okay. All right.
Like I said, make it real ingredients.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Somebody asked benefits of green tea, negative effects, how it affects the liver.
I don't think there's any negative effects to green tea.
Now, if you do huge amounts, it does have traces of caffeine. So if somebody is caffeine sensitive, but it's very little, but if somebody is very caffeine sensitive, that is possible.
I guess it's possible.
That'd be the negative. Benefits, tons of benefits to green tea.
And especially for the liver. I mean, it's the compound that's in there is the epigallocatechin gallate, and those catechins are just phenomenal. I mean, the research on them goes back probably 20 years or more. And some of the research that they've done with it, I mean, it comes out.
Research for cancer prevention is one of the better things, especially colon cancer, but they've had stuff on breast cancer. They've had stuff on different cancers. The green tea extracts. Now, it does take the high amount of the active ingredient to actually help with some of this prevention. Just 1 cup of green tea a day is probably not enough, but it's definitely not going to hurt you. And like I said, unless you have a severe caffeine sensitivity. And then some people out there do. But honestly, it's been shown to increase metabolism by 4%. So it does help weight loss a little. I'm not saying it's just going to make you lose all this weight, but it does help some. So that's one of those things that, it does make a difference.
All right. Lady called back because she was asking, she takes a supplement, DHEA, and high HDL, high triglycerides. I mean, could that be affecting it?
No, the DHA is not going to be.
It can affect it a little bit, but it's not the main thing. Yeah, it is definitely.
Big thing with triglycerides is carbohydrates.
Yep.
You know, I hate to tell you that, but that's the big thing with that. DHEA is good for energy. It kind of helps people.
DHEA has a lot of
Really
good
good
benefits. Now, overdoing it can have a lot of bad problems.
Yeah.
And when you look online and see the downsides to DHEA, it's on the high doses.
Yeah.
It is not on. We put people on 10 milligrams, maybe 25 at the most. You see people taking 100, that's the people it's going to have side effects to.
Yeah.
So a normal dose of DHEA, a low dose to bring your levels in normal range, is actually anti-aging.
Right.
The triglyceride problem, you've got to lower your carbs, and the best thing you can do is a high EPA fish oil. So there's a,
Interesting fact about fish oil, because a lot of people say, well, I take one of those, or I started taking it yesterday. If you've been deficient in omega-3s, it can take up, research is showing us now, and this is scary. Research says it can take up to 2.5 years to get enough EPA, or fish oil, the good components of the fish oil, DHA and EPA. It can take 2.5 years to get enough to actually be that beneficial for you.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
yeah.
That's a long time.
That
So
is a
start
long
taking
time.
it now.
Yep.
And a bunch.
Really? All right, 896-0713, 800-349-0713. Our final segment is coming up in just a moment. Plus, we'll take a look at this week's special. It's about 18 minutes after 9 o'clock. And welcome back. It's 20 minutes after 9 o'clock. It's our final segment of this morning's live show. Let's go ahead and look at what this week's special is going to be.
Yeah, Carb Down is something that we have. It's a phase 2 carb blocker is what they call it, and it comes from the white kidney bean, an extract from that. And what it does is helps some of the simple carbohydrates. It'll bind to them and won't let you absorb them.
Right.
So it's kind of a little bit of a...
Yeah, and it's not something that we always recommend just taking and eating more carbs.
No.
Because there's only so much carbs. But if you know you're going to be going out, you know you might be getting some that you don't normally get, it's a good idea to do before. It also has chromium in it, and chromium does help with sugar cravings and keeps the sugar from spiking as much.
Right.
So it's not something that we always say there's not a magic pill for weight loss, but at the beginning of the year, everybody wants something. And so we decided we'll put the Carb Down on sale because we do have it. And it is good to take that way, and it doesn't hurt you, but it's not a magic pill, but it can actually help a little.
Yeah.
So.
And we have a lot of people that use it that way.
We do.
They only, if they're going out to eat or something, they know they're going to get exposed, so they'll take a little bit of it with their meal.
Yeah,
and
I've heard of people doing that.
just helps.
Yeah.
All right, another call in. A friend has high blood pressure. She is 84. Her nose bleeds and bleeds. Why is that?
Well, I mean, I hope if it's from the blood pressure, then that's not good, because you actually can have so much pressure in the cardiovascular system that you pop vessels. And that's why it is not good to have high blood pressure with nosebleeds. Now, it could be something else going on too. An ENT would have to look and see if there's anything that needs to be cauterized in her nose, so she definitely needs to see an ENT, but she also needs to make sure she keeps that blood pressure under control.
She has to make sure she keeps that blood pressure under control.
Yeah.
That's number one issue.
Yeah,
And then
number one is keep
there.
that blood pressure down.
Right.
Yeah. Another question. What are the effects of the loaded teas? Good or bad for you?
Now, the loaded teas, when we saw the question in the break, he didn't even know what they were. I have heard people ask me, and what I tell them, most of the ones that I've seen, and you can say most, I can't say all, they're got all kind of stuff you don't want. They got a lot of caffeine, they got a lot of sugar, they make it taste good, they make you want to come back and have more. A lot of, and then I know people say, oh, but they're at some of the nutrition places. Just because it's at a nutrition place does not mean it's healthy. There's a lot of these drinks that they make at these nutrition places that are loaded with carbohydrates, and they're loaded with sugar, and they're loaded with caffeine and things that you don't need. So you could probably make something that was okay, but as most part, I'd probably say most of them are not good for you.
Yeah, I know in a lot of the things that I've looked at other stuff over the years, they tend to hide their caffeine, and because they'll say tea, but tea doesn't have very much caffeine to it, very little comparatively. But they'll use some things like guarana.
Yeah.
Okay.
Loaded.
Guarana
caffeine.
is like caffeine on steroids. Right. Okay, I mean you're talking about some big.
We don't
caffeine.
sell anything in our store that has guarana in it.
No.
Because I don't think it's good for the blood pressure. It's not good for the heart. It's not good for the health. So there's a lot of things. So that definitely, you'd have to see what you'd have to have an ingredient list for us to truly say this is good or bad.
Yeah, but
Yep.
probably just stay with regular tea.
Yeah.
There you go. Green tea at that.
Green.
Yeah. Exactly.
Some tips if you have fibromyalgia. What do you have to help?
We work with fibromyalgia a lot
Daily.
because we do have things that really do help, And fibromyalgia, in my opinion, is a catch-all term. It's a symptom.
It's
and
true.
it can go along with so many different conditions. I have people say, well, I have fibromyalgia, but I have lupus. Well, no, you have lupus and it causes fibromyalgia. So everybody's a little different. Overall, the main things we use, SPM, really good.
Really
Might
good.
take a month to work, but it's really good. It actually is an inflammation, because a lot of fibromyalgia definitely includes inflammation. Our Olivir, which is the extract from the olive leaf. It is antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, antiparasite, and it is one thing I have always said fibromyalgia, probably a lot of the different things that cause fibromyalgia is some sort of underlying thing in your body that shouldn't be there.
Right.
They have even linked it to some viruses. And so it is antiviral. So Olivir is always one I go to with fibromyalgia, SPM, but there are so many other things. There's the curcumins, and again, with fibromyalgia, you have to do the lab work. You have to, because you want to fix all underlying deficiencies. There's actually been, I've seen articles written that says, is it fibromyalgia or is it just a vitamin D deficiency?
Yeah, that
mimic
came
each
out a
other.
couple of years ago, and I thought it was really interesting.
So there's some big studies that a lot of it's vitamin D deficiency.
Yeah.
So you have to look at deficiencies, and then there's things that we use kind of overall. But to me, if you have fibromyalgia, you absolutely going to do more lab work than what you normally get at your doctor's office.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So another caller. I have a mild case of gout. Anything other than the medication that they give you, what could help?
Yeah,
that could help.
we have something called uric acid formula,
Yeah.
and it's to lower uric acid. But with gout, the main thing is what you put in your mouth.
Diet.
And we do have a sheet at our store, and if you come by, that's free. We have a sheet that tells you which foods to stay away from, and it tells you to take the uric acid, how to take it, and eliminate alcohol, drink a lot of water, all that good stuff.
Okay. And one of the things that, and I have a dear friend, I lost him this past year, but he was so funny, had gout for years. And I was always, of course, being from this area, tend to eat a lot of seafood, and of course the shellfish is kind of tough on it, right? And I said, and I got him to where he would he knew that, okay, if I eat that, it's really going to give me a hard time. But he tended to eat a lot of sugar.
Sugar makes it worse too.
And I had to tell him, time and time again, you got to remember, sugar causes high uric acid as well. Oh. And it was like,
And that's on the sheet that we have in our store too. So we do have a gout sheet, because we do see a lot of people with it.
Pretty much anything you eat is going to cause uric acid. So, but there's all ways to try to keep it down, and that uric acid formula works great. My friend, he took that constantly.
The woman with the friend does not have high blood pressure, but she still has all the nosebleeds.
Okay, she doesn't have the high blood pressure anymore.
Well, then that shows some what we call vascular fragility.
Yeah.
In other words, the blood vessels are fragile. And there's a reason. I mean, something's going on. Now, with an advanced age of 84, okay, the patient's a little older. Maybe we need to look at things like that can strengthen, like that rutin.
Yeah,
things like
rutin,
that. There's a lot of the
liposomal vitamin C.
Right.
Some of the bioflavonoids.
Right.
All that can strengthen vessels.
Right.
But if it continues, I would go get checked out by an ENT.
Definitely.
Okay. Now next week we will have a pre-recorded show because I'll be taking the day off, and we won't be here.
Yep. Yeah. And just to let y'all know, we're not open today. We are here doing the show, but nobody else is working today. But the rest of the week, the store will be open. We will not be there this week, but Dr. Bull will be.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, next week we'll be having a rerun of one that we did last year.
Yeah.
Early last year on what is functional medicine. A really great educational segment, so be sure that you tune in and watch it. Yeah. Anyway, Happy New Year again to you all, and we will see you in a couple of weeks live here on WLOX CBS with the Doctor's Nutrition Show.
For more information on highlighting your business and services on Healthy Living South Mississippi, contact Jim Tabor at 896-1313.